Hey, it's your girl, College Girl, and today it is Christmas Eve, and I am here at the Embassy Suites in Piscataway, New Jersey, interviewing co-founder of allhiphop.com, Chuck Jigsaw Creekmur. And today we are just going to talk about the importance of going to college and understanding how to finance a college education, and of course going through the journeys and the emotions of a college student and how to overcome your situations to become successful. So Chuck, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you went to school, and
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I'm honored to be one of the first interviews you do.
things.
Well, first of all, I'm from Delaware, Newark, Delaware, born in Wilmington, and I went to the University of Delaware. Started out at Del State and then transferred. But that's where I got my chops. You know, I really appreciate the education I got at the University of Delaware. It taught me a lot, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. I graduated with a degree in journalism, English with a concentration in journalism, and I learned a lot of everything.
So, when you did go to University of Delaware, how did you finance your education as an 18-year-old young black male from Delaware?
Yeah.
You know, financing a college education was a big investment.
Right.
You know, how did you find the resources to make sure that you could go to school and not have to worry about the financial stress?
Well, keeping it real, I had a full ride. You know, once I got to the University of Delaware, I didn't have to pay a dime. At Delaware, at Del State, I will say that my parents paid for that first year. But after that, Delaware provided me with a full ride scholarship. So I didn't have a cent of debt coming out, not one red penny. So I thank you, UD.
So, that scholarship, what did you do to get that scholarship?
Well, it was partially a result of my grades, but it was also partially a result of affirmative action. I think. You know what? I don't even know, honestly. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm assuming it was affirmative action, but I think that UD was really gracious in that regard to African American students, at least those of us that they appreciated and liked and wanted there,
Right.
and that's why.
So basically,
Yeah.
you never had
Yeah.
to borrow.
Yeah.
So back then, did your mom ever sit down with you and have a financial conversation with you before going to University of Delaware on how did you plan to pay for it together?
No, not so much. My mom was really dead set against credit and credit cards and abusing credit cards. So I think that was the main thing with her. So whereas a lot of students were at UD and they got their first card there and
Right.
immediately ran up debt and you know and probably got bad credit immediately. I never had that issue. So that was one of the most beneficial things. And my mom talked to me vaguely about saving your money and not overspending and not misusing your money.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the savings part of it was very vague. You know, very vague.
So when did you actually start working?
I started working. I'll say I got my first job maybe within a year after getting out of college.
Okay.
And I didn't enter my field immediately because I didn't see the money in it. You know,
Right.
a starting journalist at that time was about under 20,000, like 19,000 per year, and I just couldn't see it.
Right.
Even then, like I was like, I'm passionate about this, but I'm not.
I'm
about
not-
to, you know.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and especially with us having the same exact major, you know, I went to Howard and majored in broadcast journalism.
Mhm.
I know the struggle and the
Yeah.
feeling of the grind of a lot of free work and
Right.
trying to get your name out there. And I don't even know if the salary has even moved from over that now because
Right.
they have removed, of course, TV crews. So now you are a one-man band,
Yeah.
writing, filming, and shooting your own stories.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I can only imagine, you know, the stress that you had to endure. But at least the great thing about that was you didn't owe anything in student loans
Right.
to have to worry about the job that you did take.
Right. And I didn't realize that was such a blessing until after I started talking to other people years later, and they're still either, you know, deferring their loans or very, very, you know, still paying them off.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was a blessing, and I think that also contributed to me being able to self-fund my own business later on, because even though I worked at a bank after college, that taught me a lot about my finances, about credit, finance, saving money. It also gave me the ability to save money.
Right.
Because I was making so much more money than I would have ever made as a journalist.
So all the money that you saved, you put into All Hip Hop.
I put a lot of that into All Hip Hop. I put a lot of it into just living, because I pretty much after college I was on my own.
Right.
And I was making enough money, and the cost of living where I was in Delaware wasn't high at all.
Okay, so did you move back home post graduation, or
I didn't move back home ever.
ever?
And my mom made sure of that.
Right.
Yeah, I think I made it through maybe one summer.
One summer, and
yeah,
that was it.
That was it.
So since then, you have been able to develop a hip hop and urban website that features so many different music artists and just hip hop articles from across the country and at times across the world. Now, being the founder, what advice can you give to someone who wants to create their own business, who wants to save up enough money to fund something like that, to especially now in the time of where everybody wants to be a blogger, and it's a little bit more easier now to obtain your own website and become a blogger in hopes to have an all hip hop. What kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to emulate what you do?
Well, my advice, first of all, is know the business, know the craft that you're getting into. Look deep within, like, who are you? What are you built? What are you built to do? What are you passionate about? Like, what will you do if you're not getting paid one red cent? And analyze the business, because that's exactly what I did unknowingly. I did not know computers when I graduated. I did not know HTML. I did not know Photoshop. I didn't know Dreamweaver and all these programs. I sat in bookstores. I didn't buy the books all the time. Sometimes I just sat in there and just read, and I bought a lot. I bought marketing books.
Right.
I bought all types of books. And again, this was just second nature, right? So I didn't even think of what I was doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just second nature. So the one thing I will say is I didn't study pure business as much as I wish I did.
Okay.
And I would say that anybody that wants to do this, study hardcore business, right? And then you'll be able to know. But at the end of the day, this industry is really crowded.
Right.
You have to find the bluest ocean that you can find, right? Right now we're in a red ocean. It's
right.
It's a feeding frenzy.
Right.
And it's bloody red. Sharks everywhere. If you can, find a blue ocean. Look mobile. Look look in other markets that aren't so competitive.
Right.
I was fortunate when I started. It was out of a need. The internet was out of a need. I didn't realize it was just a blue ocean.
Right.
It just was that place I could go to because I couldn't afford to do a magazine, essentially. It was too expensive. So I would encourage anybody that wants to do their own thing, just find the easiest pathway to get there, doing what you love to do.
So now you have your own child, who is now 12. So in the next 6 years, you guys will be sitting down and having that conversation about going to college. So as a college graduate, a business owner, and now a parent, what advice would you give these parents that are trying to get their children in school within the next few years to make sure that they are financially secure?
Well, I think that this is a different world we live in than even just a few years ago, right? So I'm obviously raising my daughter to go to college, but I haven't eliminated the possibility that she may not go to college, or that there are other pathways. Because if I look at the pathway I took, I do feel in my heart of hearts, if I had really focused on if those years of college were just laser focused on doing journalism or doing magazines even, or doing the internet, I'm not so sure I had to go through that course, right? Second of all, I look at the amount of debt we come out with, that most people come out with, and it's only getting more. Right? Is that debt worth the 4 years where you could be either, where you can come out of high school or go through some other course and get that focused education.
Right.
Right?
Hmm.
So I say what I feel is that you need to map out the pathway.
Right.
You know, you need to study what's the best course of action for your child specifically.
Right.
So if you do go to college, you need to know exactly what you're going to do,
Right.
why you're there, when you get out, and what's going to happen in subsequent years.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean that is such a big thing. You know, so many parents don't have that conversation or are not as open to say, look, even if you don't go to a 4-year traditional school, there are other avenues for you to take that on the back end would be way cheaper,
Right.
and then you would be strictly focusing on what you essentially want to do. However, I think the problem is that parents don't really know their children's interests
Right.
or know really what they want to become and who they want to be.
Right.
And if the child doesn't know, of course the parent doesn't know,
Right.
and then in turn the child goes to a 4-year school, spends 6 to 7 years at that school, and of course all on a loan.
Right.
You know, because they were so unsure of what they wanted to do for the longest time.
Right.
And now they are in a situation where not only does the child have debt, but most likely the parent got themselves into debt trying to make that a possibility because they waited until the 9th hour.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't afford that anymore. And
Right.
I'll be clear. When I was in college, I didn't have it figured out. I mean, I was completely passionate about hip hop
Okay.
and art and comic books. Those three things I would live and breathe. And that's really all I knew. Now my parents got me there, but they didn't necessarily say, "Hey, what are you going to do?"
Right.
It's a given. You get out of college, you get a job, you go into the workforce. And
Right.
but we're in a different world, and I think that particularly for Black people, entrepreneurship is something you have to explore.
Right. Well, Chuck, I just want to thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
out today and speaking with College Girl TV about the importance of going to college, financing education, and to inspire others to hopefully one day get your own business, live debt-free, gain scholarships, and to make sure that you are also giving back to the community.
Absolutely.
So this is our interview. I thank you so much for watching me and, of course, Chuck Creekmur from allhiphop.com. I strongly encourage that you do visit his website, allhiphop.com, and see all the latest future stories and articles in hip-hop. I'm Jessica, a.k.a. College Girl, and that's a wrap.